and with an inlet from the river. Yes.
I'm gonna call the committee of the whole to order at 6 P M on March the 6th. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the Mi'kmaq, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Everyone is present, no regrets. Additions to the agenda, I have two. For the in-camera session, buy, sell, or lease town property and contract negotiations for act. Any other additions to the agenda? Approval of the agenda, could I have a quick motion for the approval?
I'll move.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the committee of the whole minutes, February the 7th.
I've read over them, I don't see anything that needs changing.
Hearing nothing, I'm gonna just approve them by unanimous consent. We have no presentations today. We have no public input. We are in business. And the first one is the pre-approval of the 2024 police bicycle, police vehicle.
I wish it was that easy. It's just a bicycle.
Have to.
So you have two quotes there that have been submitted by Chief Kane for proposals. We have the money set aside through our vehicle replacement policy. The quotes that are here in front of you today are everything totaled in. So it's road ready, stickers, lights, everything transferred over. And Chief Kane is here if you have any questions for him on it.
Open up for any for discussion.
I had one question, just with the 2021, so how many years would you have that? in?
It would still be the same, so it would still stay the 5 years,
So it'd stay the 5 years,
yes,
and there's extra mileage, but it's still less than the,
yeah, so what I'll do is just so we put it in relation. The 2021 model it was a December 2021, it came into service in 22 to go to trade fairs
Yeah.
for Chrysler Canada. And they upfit it a little bit to be a police vehicle, so you can see it's a police spec model. But when they go to sell it, that gives us the discounts, it puts it down in there. And I also looked at it, that it's a Charger, there's not many around. We already have the SUV, we have a Charger outside which still has some residual value. It will eventually lose its residual value as we go through the years. And so my aim is, I've asked them to give me the quote for everything new. However, there may be a possibility that if we were able to take some of the equipment that's in the original one, that may help to reduce the cost. But I have to ask for the full amount. However, there may be a possibility to reduce it down.
and the mileage is higher, but it's not a big factor, given that it's 5 years.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's 800, it's 800 kilometers, that's what it is, because it was basically went from show to show. And now it's sitting up at the vehicle outfitters because it has to sit there under the new legislation.
Thank
So,
you.
And the cost of fuel would, it's a little bit less with the Charger than it would be the Durango,
The,
or,
The
it
reverse.
just, on both the vehicles, you'll see they've given the stickers so that you can
Yeah.
actually see the cost of both. The problem you have is
11 points.
that unfortunately, police vehicles are always going to have the larger engines because of the amount of use that they have and because of the response capabilities that they have. That's just what we have. The one that we have right now is a 5.7 liter Charger. The one that I'm looking to replace it to is a 3.6 liter Charger. So it would actually be better on fuel per se. And it's a newer model, so they have newer enhancements in it. I think there's an extra gear or something. I don't know enough about them, but I can tell you that that's the reason he gave me it, so that you could see the full sticker. So you could see them both.
Right.
They also are no longer doing the vehicles. The sedans are no longer being produced. Going forward, the only thing there'll be is SUVs. And what that tells me is, it's like fire trucks. Costs will just keep rising.
Yeah.
Because the reason the prices have gone up as well, just so you're aware, we used to get commercial incentive pricing, but they stopped doing that as of 2023. So now we don't get like a $10,000 or $12,000 commercial rate back.
Yeah.
So they're just, this is the price, and they don't make them unless they're made to order. So if we went the new route, we would be 8 to 10 weeks before production, then we'd go into production, the vehicle would come, then it would have to go for upfit, so you're about 5-6 weeks away. but you're gonna be at a huge cost. So,
Mhm.
anyway, there you go.
Mark, does the charger come with an extended warranty because it's used?
He told me that it would stay with that, so what it has right now with the 60,000, they would honor that, so.
Okay,
That's good.
okay, that's good.
So this vehicle would be, I'm thinking of our vehicle replacement policy. This vehicle is our secondary vehicle.
It is.
So what does that involve?
Has to be the same spec as the other vehicle, has to be a police response vehicle.
Okay, but what is the use? How will the department use it?
We're gonna try and if, once we get the second one in, have the two of them being used back and forth. So sometimes they'll take that vehicle some days and then other days they'll take the other one, so that we're trying to spread the cost of the two. Secondly, if we get an on-call and the first officer goes and he needs backup, we have to be able to get the other vehicle to get there as well. Or sometimes if we have two prisoners, we have to not transport them because of legality side. So if you go down to one vehicle, you're putting yourself in a position that you could potentially not meet your legislative requirement for an adequate and effective police service. We went down this road before, and I explained it before, having just one vehicle. That vehicle gets into a collision, and it could be 7-8 months, and you don't have your vehicle, you could be on the hook. From, I have to report it to justice that we don't have the capacity to do it, then that takes away any option that you have for policing, because the minister will walk in and say, you're done.
You were looking at electrical vehicles at one time. Did you get much traction in that, or was it just something that?
The electrical vehicles, I did some checking, the cost for the electrical vehicle is just so much, because they don't do enough equipment to go in them right now.
Okay.
So because of that, of course, there's a bigger outfit cost. My other fear is what happens if the battery goes on. I just keep watching what's happening in the electrical vehicle world right now. I'm not saying that there's, and also because it is an electric response vehicle, how does that go when we get extreme temperatures? I've been watching the fiasco in Alberta with the Tesla queues and things like this. And
Yeah.
the other one is if we have the power thing here on Town Hall, we have the generator. If it doesn't have enough power to produce, that car is going to sit and not charge up. So all these kind of things I have to consider, but cost was the big one. Just the car itself, you'd be looking at 65 to 66,000, I think they quoted me for the Mustang. And that was on without the extended battery on it, and they recommend the extended battery because of the amount of equipment that we put on, lights and sirens and everything else. Because the vehicle has to run, if we're at a vehicle collision, and it can happen that vehicle's sitting there running, that will eventually be, that's why they say have the extended battery, and of course, the minute they say extended battery, add another 5,000, another 6,000, so just from the cost prohibition right now, I think I would wait.
Yeah, have you ever thought about the hybrids? They're sort of like,
Yeah, but the hybrid police vehicles now, they're only doing the SUVs, and it's like the Ford Explorer, and that's more expensive than the
Yeah.
Durango. So I trust me, I wouldn't come to the table with this. I don't. Ideally, everybody knows my thoughts on having a sedan. They're not exactly the best for the amount of kit we have getting in and out. But from a town's perspective, it's the best option
yeah,
for cost efficiency right now.
not for carrying gear and all the rest of it.
Yeah, the Durango allows us to carry the right amount of gear, plus from the point of we've got to look at officer injury, what's the most common injury, back injury, things like that. You get out the Durango, you're coming straight out. Plus their field of vision's better. Whereas the car, you're always trying to step up or step down. And when you're carrying 20 to 30 pounds, that eventually can cause problems on the back. But cars that are there, the RCMP have a surplus of cars as well. So this is the last year sedans are made, and that's because police departments have been moving towards the SUVs. So I don't want to buy a truck because that's the next thing on the market that's just a little bit cheaper, but I don't really see the value in a town this size to have a truck, right, for the police department. And plus the weight ratio in the back, you have to do other things to the back yet because of the snow and stuff, but I look at it and go, other police departments have them, I get it. I just know the problems that they're having. So I'm just trying to come up with a solution, and I get it, you have to make tough decisions. I'm trying to give you a solution that we're not gonna spend a ton of money, because at some point, you have to balance up, the vehicle that we have is gonna eventually need some major maintenance, so you're gonna have to add that cost on over the years. But that's, now you're adding on a vehicle operating budget for to keep it on the road. So it's a balance, it is a balancing act, where you save on one side, you're gonna have to spend on another piece.
Yeah. So I guess this is for 70. We've been putting money aside every year for the replacement of this vehicle.
Right.
So
And this is within budget.
Yep.
Okay.
So do we make a recommendation? Council or?
We can put a motion
have one
forward,
here?
the motion
Yep,
and the
right
sheet and piece of paper.
Okay. I would recommend the council to pre-approve the purchase of the 2021 Dodge Charger police vehicle in the amount of $68,343.35 plus HST from the 2024-2025 general capital budget.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thanks to the chief for doing the due diligence and looking at all the options. It's good to do that research. Thank you.
Perfect.
Further discussion? Question on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. To the next piece, Annapolis Hub Comfort Center Policy, tab 3.
So this is a new policy before you tonight, as the propane generator at the hub should be, well, up and running hopefully by the end of March. We've had some issues waiting for the tanks to arrive and then the generator to arrive. So anyways, it looks like we should be up and running shortly. So want to have a policy in place so we know that what the reason it is, when we'll use it, who will use it. The key to this policy is though that we will have to have a volunteer set up, a volunteer group set up, ready to activate when the time comes to activate, which will be done according to the policy by the CIO. So it was just a draft and looking for comments.
Yeah, and I noticed that obviously no one goes to the hub, the comfort station until 72 hours or after the storm has completely passed. Like, it won't be open during a storm, it'll be open after.
No, so the 72 hours is always the protocol that we put out there, where everybody should always be 72 hours prepared,
Ready.
but ready for themselves
Yeah.
at home, check on the
That's what I,
neighbors.
yeah.
But if the emergency is safe that people can get out, then we will open it up if we need to open it up for people to go as a warming center or use it as the comfort center.
Yeah, yeah.
So it could be open before the 72 hours, but people should be
Prepared.
prepared
Well,
for
yeah,
their
and-
own.
And also, I was just thinking, obviously, they didn't want people going out during a storm thinking that it's going to be open is what I was getting at.
Yes, we have to make sure it's safe for our first aid responders
Right,
and everybody
for
to get
everybody.
there.
Yes.
And
Our
that's why,
volunteers.
and our volunteers, yeah.
So we had a power outage in the middle of the storm. And the storm raged for another 8 hours and stuff. We're not gonna open it during the storm?
No,
Not if it's not safe to do so, so if your
Yes.
volunteers had to go and open it, or even safe for those people to leave their home to get to the comfort station.
yeah, it's the same as what Remo does now.
Yeah,
So I took the Remo
yeah.
policy and kind of tweaked it to make it more of our own.
Okay.
Except for the fact that the Remo will phone us and ask us to open. So if they do the same with ours, our one at the hub, if Remo phones and asks us to activate it, then the Remo group will pay for the expenses to run the
Yeah.
comfort
I was
center.
gonna ask about that.
Yes, if the town decides to open it on its own prior to Remo
Mhm.
asking for the opening, then the town's responsible to pay for the expenses to open the center up.
For the entire time.
Correct.
So for all the supplies, cleaning supplies, beverages, whatever's,
So what,
Used, okay.
where do we do, what do we do with the supplies? Like, are we gonna have to have supplies on hand, stored, ready?
Well, there's, what kind of supplies?
food,
Bottled
beverage,
water.
generator,
Bottled
fuel,
water,
hygienic,
Beds,
cleaning
that might like
supplies,
cots or.
No, that's not, so Comfort Center is not, that's not Comfort Center. Comfort Center is only to come in,
Charge your phone.
charge your phones and warm up.
Have coffee.
An
it's-
emergency shelter is when the Red Cross would come in and bring in the cots and the stuff. And that would be under the Remo's jurisdiction.
Supply coffee and food, none
We-
of that?
We can, yes, but that would all be up to us. So that would have to be somewhere stored
Up
in,
there.
no,
somewhere,
up
yeah.
there somewhere where Noah's stuff.
yeah. What you just said is 4.4 in the statement, the policy statement, that it's not an overnight emergency
Yeah.
shelter. In the event it's needed, Remo is activated and brings the supplies.
So this is for local residents, it's not just for the town of Annapolis Royal.
Well, we would never turn anybody away, correct?
And the fire department has one of these as well, don't they?
Correct. And the Legion just got their
They got their
certification
generator,
yesterday. So once we are ready to open up as a shelter, as not a shelter, as a comfort center, sorry. Brian Ord from our Remo will have to come and inspect and make sure we have everything to qualify to be a Remo comfort center. So like one of the positive things that we have up there is the AED machine. That's one of the things on their list as well.
Yeah.
Big washrooms myself too, I suppose.
Yeah, and showers, the washroom and showers, but
So we have an AED machine in the gym.
Yeah.
correct.
Mhm.
So curious, just why did we decide to move forward with this if the fire department already offers the service?
So there was a grant, I can't remember if it was, what storm it was,
For a generator.
Oh,
And-
Hurricane Fiona.
maybe.
Mhm.
And so we, there was grants opportunities out there to open up. So we got a grant for the town to have one in case the fire department. So sometimes the fire department are busy helping or fighting the fires or helping with removal of trees or something like that. And if they don't have enough volunteers to open up theirs, then we would have one.
And there's demand for it that came from the condos.
Yes, the condos were asking for it as well, and the Legion also applied for the same grant that we applied for, that I did not know that the Legion had applied for one,
And they received it as
and
well.
so they received it as well, so they have also been
But
qualified.
for comfort stations.
It's.
But it is really
It is
good.
There are three, yeah,
Three,
in the
yeah.
town now.
We know
And I
our
think
seniors
that's
will be taken
great.
care of.
Because I mean, it's not just the town, it's the outside area, Granville.
Yeah, so we got the grant for the generator.
Correct,
Okay, yeah, but we didn't get additional funding for supplies, ongoing.
like a
supplies.
coffee maker,
Yeah,
water, bottled water, no, that would all be on.
And how do we go about bringing together a community group of volunteers?
Mhm.
On a rotational basis, would it be, do you think? Or-
That's what we need
Yeah.
to find out. I'm hoping that with it being right there in the condo, that some members of the condo were willing to step up and help.
Okay,
Would
would you like this to be on the next condo meeting agenda? Start the
Good
conversation?
idea. good
Yeah,
idea.
okay,
Because in the past, that's what they've done. They've come in and made coffee.
Yep.
Supply what they could.
Yeah,
They managed.
So in the policy, it states that Ken would be the one that would open it up because he would be in, usually if there's an emergency anyways, so he would be able to go and open it up. He also lives in town,
yeah.
as other staff members, like might not be able to get in,
of course.
right?
yeah. So he could be a point
So
person.
he is the one in the policy that will open up and then pass it over to the volunteers to run.
Okay,
Well, I think it's a great idea.
And I'm, also hoping that council members would volunteer to.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the ones, yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'm in the building.
Yeah.
Around the corner.
Yeah, you guys are all real
Get that in
close.
the minutes there, Kim. Yeah.
Up on the tractor, drive down.
I'm a little under the way.
Yeah.
So the
I'll wander up.
6 blocks and run, you can do it, Holly.
will the generator provide heat and lights and hot water
Yes,
for the comfort center?
Yes.
Okay, So there'll be showers available as well.
Oh, I'm not sure if
Cold
they will
showers.
be able to do enough, like,
Okay,
all of that.
okay.
Maybe cold.
No, I'm just
showers.
thinking if
So-
we've had this before, we've had no power for a number of days. And I just thought if there were showers available, would
Yeah.
they be hot water or cold water?
There should be, but like, how much hot water?
Yeah.
I can't tell you,
Okay.
cause
Cause you,
we haven't
Yeah.
tried it
No, no,
yet,
no,
right?
yeah.
The generator, from what I was told, and it's a propane generator,
Mm.
so it should be a large enough generator to. And we only connected certain items.
well, that's
in
what I
the
was
gen-
thinking,
Right?
yeah.
So it might not be all of the lights that come on, it might be
Yeah.
like every second set of lights,
Mhm.
depending on how the panel is set up.
Yeah, they would have had
Through the
to,
generator.
they would have had
Yeah,
to
I think you
attach
need
the
heat
hot
pumps.
water here.
We have a power outage
We don't
planned for
have
10
heat
today,
pumps,
right?
Yeah.
There's no heat pump.
And-
Well, I guess I
10 to
think
10:30, yeah.
but that wouldn't be.
No, that'll be shut down. Yep. During the storm. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
No changes to the policy?
No, I think.
No, I read through it, I couldn't see anything.
Well, it's based on the one from the county, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than. think
I
we
still
should
thought
have
I might have missed something.
Maybe some supplies in there that we
We'll know
will
once. we
build an inventory of supplies and store them up there kind of deal.
Yeah. Okay, so I think there is a motion.
You'll know the first time it gets exercised.
Oh, that's true.
I recommend to council to approve the Annapolis Hub Conference Centre policy dated February 2024.
I will second that.
Question on motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion is carried. Let me go back to my agenda. So, the next item would be change start time for committee of the whole and council meetings.
Yeah, what's this?
Well, we discussed starting a little later so people can,
Yeah.
Or
Get home.
starting
Eat.
earlier in the morning, you know, that's the other option, right? Anyway, just wanna put that out there.
I think everyone that working is, oh, it would be,
4 of us are working. I
Uh,
think.
I work too.
yeah.
No, I know you do.
Oh, good. I hope I'm in there.
Okay.
Staff work too.
No, I know you do, I know.
I just was feeling left out, so I thought I'd throw that out there.
Doing work hours.
a little
Yeah.
difficult.
Kinda, would probably be a benefit
No,
for you
yeah.
to have.
My work hours include Sundays, it's.
I think the thought process was to give a little more time from the time people get off work to maybe have some dinner with the family and then get to council. An hour's cutting it a little tight. And so I guess the discussion point on this would be, do we move it back to 6:30 or 7 o'clock start instead of the 6 o'clock start?
I guess I'm happy with the time, so I'm happy with the 6.
I asked the question
Okay, cool.
at our last meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Afterwards, I guess. And, the issue I've had is, up until now at least, my son, I have an 11-year-old son. He would get home from robotics at 25 to 6, just as I'm going out the door.
Mhm.
So, because he's not with me all of the time, it was a loss.
Yeah,
Now I understand if it's not convenient for the rest of you, and it is getting close to summer, but my preference would have been for a later time. But I'm whatever the will of the group is.
I
know
can
this
do a
is what
later
you do.
time, but I understand that other people have other pressures. I can do it pretty much.
Is this something that you need on both meetings, or is it one in particular day over the other, or?
Hmm.
Oh, well, I also find that 6 o'clock is, well, normally I have dinner at 6 o'clock. So it just seems like an odd time. But again, if that's the wish of the group, I don't want to cause any trouble.
Years ago, we used to meet at 4 o'clock, I think, wasn't it?
yes.
And that allowed staff to incorporate these meetings into their working day. And then they would
Somewhat,
be
yeah.
somewhat leaving to go home around 6 o'clock because we'd finished the meeting. I
Yeah.
kind of like, I like the
I
early
like that
meeting.
too. Why, I would
But
prefer
that's me.
earlier,
Yeah, but this.
maybe not more.
I know, but that's.
Implementing
that's
that would eliminate at least 2 councils here, cause I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be
No,
coming
you can't.
every 4 o'clock to leave work early to come here. I'll leave work at 5 and come here for 5, but not for for the city for a 2 hour meeting. And I think that limits those that can actually participate on the board, on the council. I've always felt that way. These day meetings are hard to do for people at work.
Yeah, for the public maybe to come to different meetings. And have
Yeah, that's true.
stuff.
But to accommodate Paul, I have no problem with, going later for the short term while his son is,
Robotics has ended, so for this year.
okay.
So we'll be good for now, maybe revisit it another time.
Good for now, as I said, whatever the will of the group is, it still seems odd to me that we start so early, but again, that's what we've been doing, so.
Anyway, I'm
Good.
flexible on whatever hours I will change to accommodate.
Just because staff time, like if it starts at 7, then I'm worried that it could go to 10. Do you would you be interested in trying like a 6:30? Like, would a half an hour make any difference or not really? Like,
An hour would make a difference.
so can we try 6:30 for a couple
Yeah.
months and just see how that goes? And then, cause like 6:30, we're still done hopefully by 8:30, 2 hours, like our meetings, if we can keep our meetings within 2.
And we should be able to.
We should.
We've been
Um,
relatively good on that.
yeah,
And that is the reason why they're early-ish, is the fear that a meeting might be 2.5 or 3 hours and all of a sudden you're
And then
here
it's-
until.
10, 11,
Yeah,
it's a long
I
day.
can't think
2
that
hours
long.
is enough when
Yeah.
everybody has everything else to do.
So if we're looking to change the time, I would need a motion because the policy states that the meetings have to agree on from staff or from council. So if you would like to make a motion to that the time starts at 6:30,
So when would this start, Paul? What do you think?
well, we could try it at council.
Would you like to try for the next?
The next meeting.
Yeah,
6:30?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I'll move for that.
I'll second.
And we're gonna do it till the end of the term,
sure.
which is October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it's just might help a little. I don't know. True.
well, it's worth trying
Yeah,
to see if it
exactly.
helps.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have, you seconded, Holly?
I did.
Further discussion on the motion?
Okay, I just wanted to add one more thing. Do we want to check with staff first? Just in case staff wouldn't like to be leaving so late.
I don't mind as long as you try and keep the 2 hours, please.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's the deal.
So
Yeah. try to keep the 2 hours.
It's
Okay.
a long day.
I know.
Kim
Give us
comes
big
in at
agendas
noon.
then.
Kim comes in at noon on those on the second Wednesdays. I come in still at 8:30. I work 8:30 to 8:30. But yeah, so she's like at 12 to 8, so it would just include some lead time.
All right, well, I
And
just wanted
then-
to ask.
Well, and we
Yeah.
can evaluate it and see
Yes,
how.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Very good.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion is passed. And now we have a request for decision,
Oh, yeah.
electronic voting 2024 municipal elections.
So in your agenda package, you have the request for decision on doing electronic voting once again this year. So our 2020 election and our by-election has been in 2023 was done by electronic means. Everything has started. I've signed the agreement with electric.
E-voting.
No,
In
with the
Ital-
Nova
oh,
Scotia.
It's tally votes.
No, with Nova Scotia elections, I've signed the contract to move forward with the starting, so we've already started working on the elections part of it. So Melanie, this is one because we didn't have to have an election for the by-election, we still had some kind of connection with the IntelliVote. So the information there was in the package.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
$4,000,
4,500.
Yeah.
and that is the cheapest way of going.
When you consider staff time and everything else, yeah.
Yeah, and you have more
It's
options
cheaper.
to vote.
You have more
Right.
ways to vote, but is it the cheapest version to vote? That's
Yes,
the question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cause the staff time, there's no extra staff time for the 2 advanced polls that are mandated. It's just the election day that staff will be here.
In case people
So
are
it's
coming
just
in.
the two advanced polls that they would be no staff for.
Yeah, because we would be open to the public while we're here. People can come in at any time, vote.
If they need help.
Oh, yeah.
Did we notice a change in the number of people who voted in 2020 compared to the 2016?
Yes, I think there was a higher number of votes. We usually have a pretty good voting turnout for our area. And so I think there was, but Melanie would be the best because she's the returning officer to answer that
I'm
question.
pretty sure that was brought up before and
That it was-
yeah, we had a bigger,
Turnout, yeah.
turnout, bigger.
And we don't require advanced polls
No.
because the voter would.
Yeah, and you can do it right on your phone. You don't need to have a computer. You can just phone in and vote.
And there's an iPad at town hall for people to come in and
Yep.
And we
with assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll walk them through the day of the actual vote if
If you
people
wanna come in.
aren't
so-
comfortable, you know, or just don't know how to quite maneuver it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess the only concern would be when we were discussing banking in town, we were told that close to
80%.
80% people don't have access to computers.
And that's the
Or
county,
internet.
that's the county number, that's a catchment number from the
Yeah,
health.
but you
center.
can vote over the phone.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
the majority of people have telephones.
Yeah.
Right, so it doesn't kind of limit that section of the number that you're talking about. So, yeah, you can vote by phone or, you know, over the internet.
Or coming in.
Or
person.
come in person and vote on our iPads, yeah.
So we have to send out the codes. There's a numerical code, passcode that gets mailed out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any confusion about that last year? Was there any people that didn't receive one in the mail? Everything went
Everything's-
smoothly on
yeah.
that too? Oh, good. Okay.
We would have heard.
And once again, that's just if there's an election, if everybody's acclaimed, which seems to be the history in town, we don't have too many elections.
So if that does happen, and we still probably will have, a mayor that'll be, you know, we'll have to vote for, but if the council gets acclaimed, is it less amount of money?
It goes by as it says in there, it goes by the number of people that are voting, right? It doesn't go by how many
they're
things they're
voting
for. Yeah,
Okay.
because they have to
okay.
send out the pins and the emails and all of the letters go
Right.
out to all of the.
So that PIN
people, so-
number would allow you to vote for counselors
Yep.
and mayor.
And if there's a
deputy-
school board election or a.
Yeah.
So it's like $10 a property, well, house or. In
The break-
2016, I think there was 426 people that could vote.
Yeah, the breakdown is all in there of the.
And if there is no election, do we still pay the $4,500?
Because it's sent-
There's just
no
a-
contract.
There's a small amount that we would still have to pay to hold their services, right?
Yes.
But it's not the full, and then the same with the ads. Right, because we have to place so many ads, it's all mandatory ads that we have to place, so none of those. We still have to place some ads, but yeah,
Right, so it'll be a lot. Chances are there will be an election.
well, we hope so, because
Yeah.
that way, you know, more people run, then everybody can, you know.
Exactly.
Stay what they're standing for, what they're running on, and
It shows people.
better the
interested.
estrogen
Yeah.
towns, yeah, so.
Well, I would make the motion that we recommend to council to pre-approve and award the contract to IntelliVote systems in the electronic format for the 2024 municipal election.
Seconder, please.
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion is passed. Unfinished business, Healthcare Advisory Committee.
So I was away for the initial conversation, I have kind of watched a little bit of it on the YouTube. And so this was presented as their terms of reference.
Mhm.
I have tweaked it a little, so I guess I just kind of looking to clarify if this is going to be a committee of council. And then council members are going to do a term on this as well. It's gonna just meet 4 times according to this.
A minimum of 4 times.
Yeah,
Could I ask one question about it? I wasn't sure. It says 6 voting members and 1 council member, so the council member is not a voting member?
well, that's the
They're
way
just-
they've worded it, and I didn't agree with.
No,
that,
I
so-
don't agree with
Well,
that.
this is a kind of a template.
Yeah, well,
So
that's why I
it
was
can be
asking.
changed.
Yeah,
What's your recommendation?
that the counselor that sits on the committee gets a vote.
Okay,
I have a question before we go further on this. We were at the intermunicipal meeting and we brought it up to see if there's any interest from the county or to join, and
Mhm.
they came back with a slew of questions surrounding, isn't our groups already doing all this?
But in the end, they said they'd like to see. the
Well, it's like to see what we're
Yeah.
looking at, but
Yeah.
there, and I couldn't answer, we couldn't answer the questions, because there's.
Well, we
They
did.
named,
We
well,
did.
they named 5 different groups that
We did.
were. for-
Yeah, but there's 12 points of interest, of entry into the system now. There's more points of entry. That's the point. That's the problem.
But there's groups to deal with those 12 points of entry.
Well,
That's the
when
problem
you
I
have
have.
navigators in the system and you still have people going by the wayside.
Hmm.
So here's a group that's willing to do some work on this. So, but that's been the problem because Sandy and I have been going to the meetings. We've written the grant for the physician recruitment stuff. There's work to be done. I personally, I'd be happy to have any group undertake the work that Sandy and I have had to do.
But
been
if this is a
extra
new
work.
policy, then that also means that this is adding to staff time, so I will have to attend.
You're right.
Kim will have
That-
to
that
attend,
is
so
the other
is
side.
that the intent of this group?
I-
Like
I-
Yeah, that is the other side.
If there's groups that are doing what this group is intending to do, but they're not happy with what's being done by these groups. This group gonna be an advocate to try to get these other groups to do what they wanna do? Like, I don't, we're not setting up something that's going to do something different. We're setting up something that's going to try to push for what's not being done to be done, is what I see. That was the questions that were thrown at us at the meeting. It's like, well, isn't there a group to do, go for the doctors and then look for nurses, and then there's another group that's supposed to be guiding people through Maple and guiding them through, they're already set up like that, so. It's obviously not working as well as.
I was gonna say, cause I don't know what these groups are, right? It's funny.
Well, that's what I have in here, I didn't know what all the different groups were, because of not accessing that health system.
So where do you find that information on what?
That-
Maybe the best thing is just to put it to the county. Present them in terms of reference, say, what do they think? Maybe that should be the next step, rather than to try to set up a committee of our own.
Or should the group that spoke to
Yeah,
our council speak to their council?
Mhm.
yeah.
Cause they're the ones, I'm assuming,
That's
that
where
knows
the
the
clients
answers,
are,
I'm
the
not
most of
sure.
them.
Well, I brought up the question, is should we not have representation from the county on this group, because it's kind of the catchment area that we're working on, not just.
Yeah.
500 people in Annapolis.
Exactly. And, you know, my question when the presentation was made was whether there were other groups who were doing this, who were doing the advocacy. And is our committee going to be redundant because of these other groups? And if there is a need for another group, should it be just a town? Should it not represent a bigger area, a bigger
That's what
body
we,
of people?
that's what we said, should be the county.
So,
Yeah. They're the main, that's the main group. Without the county, it's kind of, we're dealing with 530 people instead of the catchment area.
Now, Paula, we
Mhm.
had a task team that
Yes.
from our team.
Yeah.
So, and just for clarification, unfortunately, I wasn't able to come.
Mhm.
Was the task team that presented our task team, or is this a different group?
No, same group.
Okay,
Yeah, same group.
perfect.
So the task team was set up,
That we requested.
yeah, in
This
February.
council
a year ago.
requested the task team to be set up, and they're just following through
Yeah.
on our
Yeah.
ask.
Exactly.
So what ended up happening is there's so much work that needs to be done. There are so many holes that need to be filled with information education. Just being a voice, being a way to coordinate the groups, what's going on in the community. For example, what does our pharmacy offer? Can you go to our pharmacy when you have strep throat? People don't know that. When we had a pharmacist come and present to the task team, we saw there was opportunities to educate our townsfolk and surrounding area, to explain, you know, for example, the coordination of the emergency rooms, what's open, what's closed. There's gaps in information. This group are, especially the Sybil who spoke and presented, she has a PhD in this industry. I mean, she really knows what she's doing. She's willing to volunteer. The other members of the group are willing to stay on, and they just see there's a need in the community. Other municipalities that I'm aware of haven't set up this group, this subcommittee yet.
Have not,
Have not.
Okay.
We could potentially be the first one to do this.
but we're also the smallest staffed,
And I
which,
think it
which
would
is
create
concerns just to me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if, and it's fine if the task team takes on most of the responsibilities.
Okay.
And does all the legwork, but then it still comes back to staff, that staff are still going to have to spread the news, you know, do whatever through our,
Education side of it.
yeah,
Is a
side
lot.
that we can
What do you
do, right?
mean? What do you mean? Staff spread the news?
Well, if the task team goes and finds out all of these things of what the drugstore can do and what's available, well, then we have to still put that information out somewhere. How do we put it out? Do we put it out on the website? Do we put it out on Facebook? How are we gonna have to share that? That all takes time. Like, even though the majority of the time would be gathering all the information and all that,
Mm.
there will still be a time that staff would have to spend doing that legwork after the information has been gathered, right?
Right.
Sharing it, putting in newsletter, doing mail drops, doing whatever the task team has kind of suggested that council agrees to do.
So I think one of the thoughts is that we have an accessibility subcommittee, and quite rightly so, we need that. We have an environment committee, and these are pressing issues that are being looked at by the committees. Healthcare is so important to our town and surrounding area, and we don't really have an active group looking at that. We don't have a group that we can give tasks to when there's grant money available or other opportunities that, for example, with environment, that gets passed to the environment committee.
Well, actually, no, the grant that had to be written for position recruitment, Sandy and I wrote. We went to the seminar. We did make the task team aware that the seminar was happening, but we went to it. So we've not been missing opportunities. We've gone to every meeting where municipal officials are invited. We've been to soldiers. I have a file that's this thick at least. So everything we could do, we've been doing. And the question in my mind was if the task team would replace the work of staff and me, for example, that Sandy and I've been doing. That grant did get written, did get submitted. So the work gets done, just that it may not be visible to people, but it gets done.
Okay, so would you like to delegate more work to
That was
subcommittees?
suggested. I'd made that suggestion before. Like, that's how these things get done. Somebody has to do it.
Okay.
And Lynn Longmire is now the Annapolis County representative of the municipal voice for our area. We made that decision last time. There's one for
Kings County and
Kings
Annapolis County.
And one for Annapolis. Because we've been talking directly with Dr. Pugh. We've told her what the problems are. We know what they are. Over 12 points of access to a system is, yeah, we know it doesn't work for people. And it's not just our area, we know it's an issue. So I'm not arguing about the need for something, but Sandy's right, so we're doing this work now, does that mean we don't have to do it? I guess that would be my question.
And meeting 4 times a year is really,
No, just as a minimum. We just put that down as a kind of a framework. That can be changed. You know, it was just,
I had to go
it says
to
a
a
minimum.
physician's recruitment thing on Saturday night at the theater, why, God knows, but I showed up. And it was Mid-Valley and they brought these doctors in the King's Theater. I sure didn't wanna go out on Saturday night, but guess what, you do what you have to.
And was that invitation open to?
That invitation
Everybody?
was made to me because
Okay.
where else do they make it, right? So I go to everything. Sandy goes to everything.
Mhm.
We go to everything we're asked to go to. Because town has, in our strategic plan, when people say it's not on the horizon, no. We have monitoring rules written into the strategic plan that we're to monitor the situation, because it is a.
But these groups are there's other groups bringing these doctors in. There's somebody
Yeah.
doing that.
Yes, but nobody was there to get the students to their placements at 5 a.m. because King's Transit was down.
Right.
So what do? You
You
find
were
somebody.
you were,
Jim Metal was driving, I was driving,
Yeah.
getting up at 5 a.m. and going, and this is what you have to do, whatever.
I
it
mean,
is
that's
you
what
have
makes
to
our
do.
community so unique, really, and special, I have to
And
say.
before that, it was Boucher and
Yeah.
company, right?
Yeah,
They just got up and they did whatever. Somebody's gotta do the pieces that nobody wants to do.
Well, it
Yeah.
sounds to me like we have a group here that wants to do work, so
So can we do it in a way that doesn't impose more work on staff? And the idea of the task teams, no minutes, that means there's no tying up of town staff. So do we really need to make it a committee?
or just keep it a task team.
That was kind of,
An example is a titled task team. It's always been a task team. It's done a ton of work, but it's never been an advisory committee, even though that file's really important. It's still a task team.
but a task team is set up to do a specific task with a limited time
So
frame.
we've been doing it for 4 years now.
But that's not the correct definition of a task team, is it?
It is, because the problem was thought to be more urgent. It keeps going year to year.
Yeah.
Task team is still in place. It's 3 people. It's been the same 3 people for 4 years.
And what was that for?
Title for
Oh,
the
Nova
NSPI,
Scotia Power.
the
Utility.
NSPI task team. That was the first task team we struck. We're still at it because it goes on, right?
Maybe,
okay.
maybe it might be nice to see what we can get, communicate with the county and see.
And see
some of
where
their
they stand.
input.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
If we're missing on education, then that's a role, but if we're not, and there's other bodies to do it, then that's not a role, and if we need somebody to deliver people around, that's a different thing altogether,
Another
so.
role.
It'd be nicer to figure out where the gaps are. And if it's an we need to be a committee or a task team to fix the gaps, then we can make a decision after that.
I agree with Paul, there's gaps, but I also agree it'd be better if we could do something with the county.
If we
Yeah.
set up this standing permanent healthcare advisory committee for the town of Annapolis Royal, then we can invite a member of the county of Annapolis to
Well,
come
we
and sit on the
we
group.
put that question to the group,
Which group?
the working group with the county, Middleton and Annapolis County. We brought it up at the last meeting, Paula.
Okay,
That, Michael just gave you what we got back, a lot of questions.
Yes.
right.
Because Lynn Longmar is now the Annapolis County representative on behalf of the municipal units in Annapolis County. And there's one for Kings, and we negotiated that with Soldiers Memorial and Company, Dr. Pugh and others. So there's a kind of a framework. I'm not saying it's working, you know. I'm not saying that at all.
So,
How do we,
yeah, that's what I was
Approach
thinking. Who? The county of Annapolis?
Well, they were interested in seeing terms of reference, right? And here, we've got some. So maybe this is what we send them for the next agenda.
so should our terms of reference not have two sitting members of the county,
Well,
or one, or
but
something? We don't have
you're
it.
right, we could propose something to them. Yeah,
Well, I think terms of reference should include them.
yeah,
We're gonna-
yeah.
I think,
County counselors.
I think the first decision needs to be whether you're staying as a task team or you're coming in as advisory. And then we know
They-
which direction to
At
go.
the meeting, they sort of had suggested that they were done with, they had reached their limit of being a task team.
Yeah.
And that's why
But
they
I
want,
don't know how you decide that,
Yeah.
because we've had task teams that have been on the run.
If there's going to be a committee, is it possible to have a joint committee with the other municipalities?
Yeah.
And that would share the burden on staff?
Mhm.
Would that make more sense than having an Annapolis Royal committee that we invite people to join?
would have a joint committee with the county.
I think so, because we're 530 people.
Yeah,
And it would have more weight, I think, if
It
it were
would.
to represent a larger population base.
And there's Lynn Longmar's role to factor in, since she's the county person representing all of it, all the municipal units.
wow.
And she's a nurse in the
Yes, I know.
system.
I know that, yeah. What's your?
I just think we just need to, there should be, I like the idea of the joint, it should be joint, whatever,
Mhm.
committee, task team, whatever you wanna call it. The catchment area is too big for us. I am concerned about additional cost to us if we're even on an educational side, once you say, well, we need to let everybody know this, and this. Your printing paper, your mailing paper, your emailing, your staff time, it's just gonna add, it'll add up. So
And is it, and you know, healthcare has been kind of another one that's downloaded onto the municipalities. Is it really a municipality's job to educate the people on the provincial healthcare system? Unfortunately, you don't know where to go and what to do because there's too many options. But when you have a small staff, it could take over.
I started this by asking the question about other groups. I don't know what the other groups are. If there are other groups out there, I'd like to know who they are, and I'd like to know
I
what the
can
role
give you
should
a
be.
list, we've got the file, so Sandy and I were meeting on Friday morning, we'll give you a list.
And where do you get that list from? Do you just go on to like healthcare?
No, we've got
We've
a
been
file, we've
working
been
with
going to
all
meetings,
these
we know who
people.
everybody is, we can give you the
Like,
list.
You know, this is who they are and this is what their role is.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
what
I
they should be
probably
doing.
don't know what their role is
Well, and
because that's,
this is what we got caught in that meeting. Well, this group is supposed to do this. They educate this and
Yeah.
they walk people, the elderly through here, and Amy brought up, said, well, that's fine if you're elderly. If you're below that level, then there's nobody to help you.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So,
Dr. Pugh herself said, yeah, it's a gap in the system. Not that she was gonna do anything about it, but that was kind of scary.
That was,
Yeah.
so can I get the contact information maybe from the person that did the presentation?
Mhm.
So that I can also maybe talk to her
Yeah, for her, yeah.
and then,
So-
and get, maybe more information to add to the list.
And I'll prepare
that
the
make
list of all the groups and give you a copy, no problem, because I've got a thick file.
Okay,
and maybe turn out they're an advocate group to say, okay, well, they're not doing their job,
We'll
we'll
help.
represent the town on talking to these groups kind of thing, and that'd be huge. Cause we don't have time for that.
well, that's right, and that's why this group wants to be established to do the work that you've just said. There's the gaps that we don't have answers to. There's the groups that we don't know what they do. That would be the first thing that this advisory committee does on behalf of the town.
But they don't need to be an advisory committee to do that work.
Why don't they though?
Because as the task team that's already been set up through the town, they can do that work. It's just gathering information.
I think.
They're
the
not
reason for the
speaking on
task
behalf
team
of the
is No
town.
minutes, no structure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to prepare minutes, it doesn't tie up staff. So the reason for the task team was to be nimble, to do whatever.
Yeah, for people
There's
who
no
like
limitation,
working on
really.
certain things, they can do that specific thing, right?
So let me ask you this then, why do we have, I hear what you're saying, but why do we have an environment advisory committee? Why don't we have an advisor?
Because of sea
environment
level
task
rise.
team?
Because of sea level rise, the existential threat to everybody and the money involved. We had John Bottomley, who was able to write a $40,000 report the town didn't pay for. We had the expertise, we have CARP, we had everything we needed to write our own plan. And now that the province is left to the municipalities, it's a good thing that we did that work. It didn't cost us a penny engineering, that was all grants.
And we didn't have one until recently.
yeah, it's only been like
Because
some of the years.
I think,
Term, I think we have- wasn't it-
No, it
there was
was,
the term prior to this
it
because
was the year before you.
I think
Yeah, so it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
they-
5 or 6, yeah.
we declared a war against climate change, and I think that was where the environment committee started, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right
Yeah,
around
Around
that.
that time,
Yeah,
because we
that's
did not have one. It was the same with the waterfront development. We had a waterfront development
Task
committee
team.
for a while and then closed it up because we don't have time to work on the one.
And Twinning were a subcommittee, and then they didn't want to be a subcommittee, so he said, okay, you can be a task team. Then they became a task team. They did great work, and then they decided they didn't want to be a task team, and they all quit.
So the Twinning Committee were offered the opportunity to be a subcommittee, is that what you
They
just
were-
said?
No, they were a subcommittee,
That's how
They
they
were,
but they
started.
weren't happy.
So
So
they,
we gave them the option of becoming a task team, which they did,
So they were the Twinning group was a subcommittee
of
of
medic.
medic,
Medic.
Yeah.
reporting to medic.
And then they went off on their own, and they didn't have to do minutes, or they didn't have to do reports. And then it was a counselor who reported every meeting, but it meant that staff time wasn't tied up. It's true, I appreciate, because I approved the minutes, the time that it takes staff to produce minutes, agendas and chase people it's a lot of work.
Well, I feel that healthcare we're in a crisis situation and it's going to be ongoing probably for a long time. And I feel very strongly that we need to have a standing committee to address healthcare in our town. So that's how I feel.
Well, we can certainly take it to the county for the next meeting and it'd be
So-
nice if we could cooperate on the health, like we are trying to cooperate with the county on the healthcare file now. This would be an extra piece.
And having such a group of people
Already
ready,
working on it.
willing and
Yep.
eager to, do the work. I'm sure the county would be happy to get on.
There is,
Yeah.
Must be people in the county the same way,
Yeah,
that are still have the same concerns.
yeah,
But the questions that were brought up I think need to be addressed in some fashion on what's out there, what's being done by certain groups and what this group needs to fill, the space it needs to fill.
well, we can certainly draft the list of who's who and get
Yeah.
that to everybody, and we'll do that.
But it's also the other thing the group wanted to do was promote healthy living in our town. To use, say, the innovation lab to teach people how to onboard onto Maple. To do innovation workshops and just generally make our town appealing to doctors to move to the area. So there's work to be done in our town as well.
But see, that stuff should be being done. There should be, Maple should be being shown by some group already. Nova Scotia Health should be advocating recreation as a benefit to healthcare. And we've had 2 representation for doctors, that the groups that were looking at doctors come into the general area.
And
So,
actually, in the application for the physician recruitment video, it was recommended that the task team be involved in that, if we're successful, the task team and the auxiliary, right?
And the foundation.
That's the other problem, is getting people to work together. So we put those 2 groups in as obvious people, like, given we had a task team and given the auxiliary, it would make sense for them to work together and produce this video or supervise it or whatever.
Work with, yeah.
Yeah, work with it. As opposed to Sandy and me.
So what I will do is I will work with Amory and speak to Sybil.
Sybil,
Yes. And try and come back with some list or who's doing what, maybe council, depends on timing, because that's only a week and a half. But
are
I'll
you
keep
gonna reach
working
out
on.
to the county at the same time?
Well, I'm gonna wait till I see what I gather and find out and talk.
Okay.
Yeah,
But we can certainly get it on the county agenda, our
Okay.
intermunicipal agenda.
So just so I understand, one of the reasons against establishing a standing committee is because of the potential of extra staff time involved in
That's one factor.
contributing
Yeah.
to running this
Yeah.
committee. Okay, so could we potentially look at taking some of that work away from council, or is it you're required to sit on this? Our CAO is required to be part of the group.
Right now we are, because
Okay.
there's nobody stepped up, and we've made it known when these opportunities come up, we have every time. And Sandy and I have gone by default, because there's nobody.
No, she's asking if Sandy has to attend all committee meetings.
if a staff member has to
Oh,
be
I'm
present.
Sorry.
Well, there has to be someone there to take minutes. And it is good to have staff that knows policy, knows, so that they don't go down roads that.
because it is still a town policy, so we have
Right,
to
it's
follow all our
important to-
meeting and procedures and.
Okay,
I'm just.
so just having a councillor on the committee wouldn't be enough. It has to be a CAO.
And then it would also have to be Kim Woodtown.
And Kim has to take
minutes.
the minutes. It couldn't just be a member of
Oh,
the
it could be
committee.
a member of the committee if they're, yeah.
So a member of the committee could
Could
take
take the
minutes.
Yes.
And a town councillor could be the person,
No,
you're saying it has to be the CAO.
well, yes, because the policies, to make sure that the policies are adhered to
Okay,
and make sure that the direction stays on track. Just like I attend every meeting, medic,
You do.
Board of Trade,
So-
board,
what-
environment.
Board of Police.
Why don't we just leave it on the agenda for the next month? That gives us a chance to get the information where we want it to go, and then we can kind of You send it out to everybody and we could all kind of come back with questions or whatever and see where we're at, tweaking it for next meeting of the whole. I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be dropped. I think
No.
it's definitely something that
just
we
a
need
matter
to
of figuring out
have. It's-
We
exactly.
need to discuss.
It needs to be the right path forward to get it started. Whether it's just for the town or if it's a joint one with the county and the town, definitely needs to be.
All our roles would change if it was just us over catchment
Definitely.
area.
It would be nice if the county took the
Mm.
lead on one of these intermunicipal groups, it'd be great.
Is that fine with everybody?
Yes.
So. For respondents. Love coastal protection. I had all sorts of lot of things highlighted and all sorts of stuff in there.
Well, it's not really 12 pages, it's only 10. When I printed, there were 2 blank sheets. Anyway, so it's a very fast read.
This is the,
The Nova Scotia Coastal Plan,
okay,
so forget the Climate Protection Act, forget the regulations.
did we look into any of the, like this Sustainable Community Challenge Fund and the Community Climate Capacity Program? Is that
Yeah.
something that we can access?
We have applications in for both.
Okay,
The document you're referring to, is that I see in the news reports.
Here it is, the future of Nova Scotia's coastline, a plan to protect people, homes, and nature from climate change.
I'm going to guess that is not the proposed bylaws that the province is supposed to. offer
No, they're
municipalities.
abandoning the legislation, the regulations, gone.
Mm,
In fact, they say it right in here. They say, we developed this plan after listening to Nova Scotians, municipalities, and other stakeholders. We also did thorough and thoughtful analysis of all possible options. It does not involve proclaiming the Coastal Protection Act, which was too limiting in that it only applied to new builds. So that's from the province. So they sent us this 10-page document with all these tools in it. They basically said, though, municipal units were ahead of the province when it comes to planning for climate change, and I think that's a true statement. Because we did review in Environment Committee, the climate protection plan, and it was way behind any municipal plan that I've seen.
Okay, my understanding, whether it was from reading the letter that was included in our briefing package or from the news coverage, was that the part of what the province is doing after, shall we say, killing this act, was to have sort of a standard bylaw or standard bylaws that will be available to municipalities.
Oh, they do list a whole bunch of tools that are possibly coming.
Okay.
They do. But we already have model bylaws that are produced by the Association of Municipal Administrators. And normally, in the case of municipal bylaws, that's the vehicle. They go through the municipal administrators because that's who produces model bylaws. Now, they rely on the province, the feds, they rely on other sources, but that's where they come from. And they did repeat the fact that they've set targets for greenhouse gas emissions, and then, so this, at least we have certainty, we know now we're not going to have the act or the regulations. So we know something we didn't know, and we do have a coastal protection.
What impact does this have on the town of Annapolis Royal? This legislation?
I think it's
Nothing.
more provincial,
Nothing.
the fact you're gonna have a patchwork. That's
Yeah,
all.
just
We don't
means that-
really have to, this doesn't impact us other than as Nova Scotians.
No, because we have our own NPS and LEV right now,
Yeah.
and we state how close you can set
Okay,
those subjects, so
It's,
it's just that.
you know,
there's a lot less than what they were proposing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the hope was though that the province would set them so that municipalities didn't have to.
Right.
And then they would be easier to enforce, but now the municipalities on their own, so. If one municipality doesn't seem to care about or coastal erosion, then you could build close and. And then the neighboring municipality might be like, no, we don't want you, you have to be 500 feet or 5,000 feet back and. And then that's when the two municipalities have that conflict, right?
mhm.
The good part is Sandy applied for a grant for Middleton, the county, and us to merge our climate change plans.
Oh,
So we still haven't heard on whether we got that money, right? But at least the application went in for a joint plan, which is better than just a town plan. Yes.
Well, I personally think that the municipal units should have the say over, it's dictated what the
minimum is.
minimum is.
Well, I think they've realized the municipalities are well ahead of anything that they could come up with.
Well,
Oh, hands-on.
and I think certain municipalities would have been having issues with what they were proposing.
Well, developers should do.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have a request from the Friends of the Pool for budget discussion.
Yeah, so just, the letter was received, so the Annapolis Community Pool is requesting that the town of Annapolis Royal match the municipality of the county's $60,000 donation. So that has been passed on to budget, but I just wanted it noted in the minutes
We received it.
that we've received it.
Perfect.
Great.
And roundtable, starting with Mayor Boyer.
Can't see on my report, I won't repeat it, but one thing I did not disclose was on February 22nd, I did have a Radio Canada interview. And it was on the subject of the long ambulance waits, for the case of Annapolis Royal. And as a basis for that, I used the Saltwire article that was prepared by Ian Fairclough. I used basically his information. So just to let you know that I did that, that's it. Yeah.
I don't have anything on mine, so go ahead.
Me?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. One of the biggest things I did, and I know I've shared this with you recently, is I attended the recent meeting for our volunteer firefighters at the Annapolis Royal Fire Hall, and there was Annapolis Royal firefighters and Bridgetown firefighters, Bear River, North Queens, and various media outlets. And it was a great opportunity for the volunteers to speak out about the lack of emergency services in our area and the worsening situation, and it places a tremendous amount of stress on the volunteer fire crews. And I just wanted to say thanks to our volunteer firefighters and the paramedics for all their hard work and dedication. Yeah, and that's it for me.
Councilor Sanford.
I attended this morning the Annapolis County Source Water Protection Advisory.
Wow, is that
10
the first
a.m.
one?
There's two, but I missed the first. Oh, sorry. Anyway, that's okay. That was on.
Didn't mean to call you.
No, anyway, it was good. It was really good. I got a big binder, and our next meeting is gonna be a field trip, and we're gonna go actually looking at these different water sources, watersheds, and yeah, they're very on top of water and how it works and how to protect it, and no, it was really good, actually, really good. Looking forward to the next meeting, field trip,
Okay.
not until nicer weather.
Councilor Weir.
I don't know why these roundtables always catch me by surprise. I should know by now.
Why not for me?
I attended the event hosted by the Annapolis Valley Regional Library at our library.
Oh, yes,
Honored the
yeah, that
request.
was great. That was amazing. You did a great speech.
Thank you.
Really good.
You can't add to your roundtable after you go back and forth.
So that, which I thought was an excellent event, very well attended, but I had great faith in the residents and local community to come out to an event like this. Other than that, I'll just give a shout out to Public Works for emptying the garbage cans of dog poo. I really appreciate that. And thanks to Ken and his people.
The brown dog.
The brown dog, and at the corner of St. Patrick's Lane and Champlain Drive and in front of the Academy. Yeah.
And Paul, are we going to get a letter from the regional library in answer to our correspondence?
I would assume so.
Okay, because we still haven't.